as we can muster, even if that is very little. Good Friday affirms that through experiencing human pain, suffering, and death, God comes closer and more deeply into our lives than ever before. Tonight, we will be recounting the 7 sayings of Jesus as he hung on the cross. With each, we will extinguish a candle. At the very end of the service, you will be invited to light a candle in your own home to symbolize your waiting for the promise of Easter morning, to sit with the pain of this night. Easter. We aren't there yet. We know how this story ends. So tonight, let us sit at the foot of the cross and allow this season to pass through and change us, to refine us, teach us, strengthen us, and prepare us for the world that we know in full confidence is coming soon. But tonight, right now, we're not there yet. Luke 23:34. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Jesus' prolonged suffering has just begun. He opens his mouth and utters this prayer on behalf of those who have brought him to die. Forgive them. But this was not the first time that Jesus had prayed for them. He had done so many times, in many places all over Judea, from the moment his ministry first began. When he prayed for the lost, the broken, the confused, the hateful, the angry, he was praying for them. When he prayed for those who had fallen away, who had given in to despair, who had retreated from the light of God, he was praying for them. And here, too, when their anger and their lostness and their hatefulness came into violent form and broke his body, here, too, he prays for them. He prays for them because he means it, because he has always meant it, because he is beyond confident in the power of it. Jesus knows that in times of discomfort, great pain, and even death, that in that time, this time too, that is when all that has supported and filled and beautified and sanctified life comes into its greatest and most meaningful power. And what has supported, filled, beautified, and sanctified Jesus' life? Mercy, grace, love. And so, to confront suffering, that of his body and their spirit, of our body, our spirit, our neighbor's body, our neighbor's spirit, he and us by his example pick them up again. Mercy, grace, love, and discovers a strength to see this through to the end. From the Gospel according to Luke, chapter 23, verse 43. Truly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise.
Truly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise. Flanked by two crosses, where hung two others in the midst of their own grueling crucifixion. Jesus is taunted by one, who then is rebuked by the other. Why, do you not fear God? We are getting what we deserve for our deeds, but this man has done nothing. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise. Truly I tell you, as I am in my Creator, our God, you are in me, and I am in you. And even the other guy, same goes for him too. Truly I tell you, there is no difference between the one deemed untouchable in India's caste system and the CEO on Wall Street. Truly I tell you. Maybe now we are beginning to understand we are one body. We are all dependent and intertwined with so many, even far away. A stranger's hand washing is my health. A worker's delivery is my life. The well-being of my neighbor is my well-being as well. I love my neighbor as myself, not just as much as myself, but as the rest of myself. Jesus, remember us when you come into your kingdom.
The Gospel of John, 19, 26 and 27. Jesus said to his mother, "Woman, this is your son." Then he said to the disciple, "This is your mother." Times of incredible fear and doubt are exacerbated when we also sense that we are utterly alone in them. Perhaps this is what Jesus saw on the faces of his mother and his beloved disciple as he looked down. More now than the movement that had linked them together these past years, more now than the mission they would commit themselves to after this day, in this moment, each one of them was watching a member of their family approach his death. For one, it is a family of blood, the child she bore and raised. For the other, it is family of choice, a kinship created together on the long road. Jesus creates a new, single family there from the cross, the blending of blood and choice. Those who would seek and love him will never be separated from him or from anyone else who seeks and loves him. As it was true then, it is true today, and we are living it out. From isolation, we reach out and build community, friendship, family in new ways. We find the bonds that link us together are not dependent upon traditional ways of being, but instead firmly grounded in all that we share through mutual love, respect, and belief. We are never alone. And over the last 4 weeks, what has stitched us together has proven itself stronger than we could have ever hoped for. Woman, this is your son. My beloved, this is your mother. Matthew 26, verse 46. My God, why have you forsaken me? Jesus is embracing the tradition of lament in this most vulnerable moment on the cross by quoting his own scriptures, the 22nd Psalm. The words of his upbringing, the words of his ancestors came to him to tend to him when it seemed no one else would. 2,000 years later, Christianity in the West is often uncomfortable with lament. We prefer everything that happens after Good Friday, thank you. Ideally, we would like to jump from Palm Sunday to Easter morning. But if we follow the footsteps of Jesus over Holy Week, we know that we cannot. And it is not because we walk with Jesus, but rather because Jesus walks with us. Jesus models for us that indeed there is no way out but through. When Jesus was born, he said yes to everything it meant to be human. And what it meant to be human culminated in this moment on the cross. There are some theologies that hold a belief that this moment on the cross, when Jesus utters these words, is a time when God had turned God's face away from Jesus, hence leaving Jesus abandoned at his most vulnerable time. This idea comes from a theory called substitutionary atonement, the belief that Jesus bore on himself all the sins of humankind, past, present, and future, and that because he was stained with the collective sin of all humanity, God's holiness required that God turn away from him. And Jesus cries out in despair. I say to this, though, we are not saved because Jesus bore our sin, because sin did not kill Jesus. Empire did. We are saved because of Jesus' ultimate solidarity with everything about the human condition. This moment on the cross, this moment of utter despair, was not a moment of Jesus suffering for us, but the ultimate moment of Jesus suffering with us. He suffered as we do, so much so that in this moment he too had the illusion of separation from God. He too in this moment was sure that he had been forgotten, left, abandoned. God, however, had not left him, but the pain and the fear and the despair of that moment blinded even Jesus to God's presence with him. And we know it is hard to live a full life without also falling for that lie. There have been various articles lately wondering what, if anything, the church has to offer about the current pandemic. It is not lost on me that Good Friday this year falls on the day when the surge of infections and hospitalizations is supposed to begin here in Boston. The church, however, has a lot to say right now, because Jesus knows this pain, this fear, this sense of aloneness that some of you may feel tonight. Whether you are quarantined alone, in isolation to protect those you love, or in a hospital, afraid that out of medical necessity, you may have to die alone. Remember this. Plant it deep, deep in your heart. Jesus has been there too. Jesus has promised his solidarity, that is, his presence and his nearness to us, which is as close as our next breath. For this day, for all of our days. Just as God was there with Jesus in and on the other side of his death, even when he couldn't see it, so God will be with us in ours when that day comes. Jesus gives us permission to lament and cry out throughout life, my God, my God. What language shall I borrow to thank thee, dearest friend, for this thy dying sorrow, thy pity without end? Oh, make me thine forever, and should I fainting be, Lord, let me never, never outlive my love to thee. From the Gospel according to John, chapter 19, verse 28. From the cross, Jesus says, I thirst.
Jesus has been thirsty before. At the outset of his ministry, when he was in the wilderness being tempted by evil, he was fasting, neither eating nor drinking. He knew physical thirst. And later, in happier times, on the grassy mount, where his disciples gathered to hear him teach about God's blessings, he used the metaphor of thirst. Blessed are you when you thirst to see what is right prevail, he said, for you will be filled. Jesus knew what it was like to ache for love, compassion, and courage to prevail. An ache like the thirst on the hottest of days. And now, on the cross, he speaks again of thirst, and for his physical suffering, we grieve. But now, also, from the cross, as he speaks again of thirst, we remember his longing to see justice and righteousness done, on this earth as in heaven. On the cross, a victim of injustice and wrongdoing, yet with his love and compassion for others undiminished, still he thirsts to see right prevail. He thirsts, and so must we. Let us also thirst to see justice and mercy and right prevail. Let us thirst with him, that we may all be filled. Amen.
The Gospel of John, chapter 19, verse 30. It is finished. From the writings of Kahlil Gibran. Then she spoke, saying, "We would ask now of death." He said, "You would know the secret of death. But how shall you find it unless you seek it in the heart of life? The owl whose night-bound eyes are blind unto the day cannot unveil the mystery of light. If you would indeed behold the spirit of death, open your heart wide unto the body of life. For life and death are one, just as the river and the sea are one. In the depth of your hopes and desires lies your silent knowledge of the beyond. And like seeds dreaming beneath the snow, your heart dreams of spring. Trust in those dreams, for in them is hidden the fate of eternity. Your fear of death is but the trembling of a shepherd when he stands before the king, whose hand is laid upon him in honor. Is the shepherd not joyful beneath his trembling, that he shall wear the mask of the king? Yet he is more mindful of the trembling. For what is it to die, but to stand naked in the wind and melt into the sun? And what is it to cease breathing, but to free the breath from its restless tides, that it may rise and expand and seek God unencumbered? Only when you drink from the river of silence shall you sing, and when you have reached the mountain top, then you shall begin to climb. And when the earth shall claim your limbs, then you shall dance. It is finished. Luke 23, verse 46. Father, into your hands I commend my spirit. Always, only in life and surely in death, we are ever God's. These were the last words Jesus ever uttered. And yet I have to think it was not the first time these words left his lips. This moment of finally receiving his rest, of shedding it all and moving straight into the heart of God. This was simply a return to his true home. This was the culmination of a deep truth that he had known all along. As a child, when he was separated from his parents at the temple, he answered their worry with these words, "Did you not know I would be in my Father's house?" And as he grew up into his power, how often would he say, in as many ways as possible, "As God is in me, and I am in God, so you are in me too. The moment of commendation at a memorial service or a funeral, where we lay our loved one in the arms of their Creator once and for all. It is a similar moment of communally recognizing what has always been true. Regardless of anything else in our lives, even regardless of whether or not we knew it, we are only and ever and always God's. Daily we too can say, Holy Beloved One, into your hands I commend my spirit. As we take our first breath each morning to the time we take our last breath on this earth, may we too rest in the assurance that we are returning to a place that our souls know very, very well. This night, especially, O God, into your hands we commend our spirits. Jesus' body is taken down from the cross. He is wrapped in funerary linens, laid in a tomb, and sealed inside. Silence. Darkness. In that moment, the only part of Jesus that still lived is all that he had planted in those who learned from him, who followed him, who called him brother, teacher, master. They live. For now, we live. And so we take what he has taught us. We go where he has led us. I invite you at this time to light a Christ candle in your own home, symbolizing what you carry with you. Tonight is darkness and silence. We know what is coming, but we aren't there yet. So for now, we wait. Amen.